Hey guys, welcome to the abstract sunflower painting tutorial. Today we're going to be doing a real abstract background, and then we'll be painting on our sunflower, and then we'll be kind of grunging it up a little bit more on our top layer. You can mix and match any of the colors. Black and white of course goes with anything. Today I'm going to be using a yellow ochre for my sunflower color, which you could also substitute with yellow oxide or raw sienna. This looks great with a teal color as well. This particular painting is actually on a smaller canvas than what we normally do, so I'm going to be making it bigger. So as I said, I'm going to be using a yellow ochre, a titanium white, and a Mars black. I'm also going to be using a 1-inch flat brush and a detail brush. I will be using a palette knife. Mine's very well used and very dirty, but that's okay. Little texture. If you don't have a palette knife, you can use just a cut up piece of cardboard. I actually dug this out from a box of microwave popcorn. It's just the flap of one of the boxes. This will give me a nice straight edge to work with. I think I might incorporate some round plastic cups as well. Smaller than smaller than a solo cup, but bigger than a little Dixie cup. Yeah, so I'm gonna get started here. Another good thing to note with abstract paintings, there's a lot of texture going on. So if you have a canvas that you want to paint over, or you want to reuse or recycle, now is a good time to do it, as having all this texture on there, you're not going to see what you had previously painted on. So I am actually going to recycle a canvas that I've had. Doing all these paint tutorials, I actually have a lot of canvases that I've done a little boo-boo on, or messed up, or had to start over on. And what I did was, this was a really bizarre looking sunset, and all I did, my first layer, is I just layered it with white and black to get this gray tone. And then now I'm going to go over it and make a light to dark tone fade background. And that's how we're going to start this out here. So put that away here. So I'm going to need quite a bit of white. A little bit of black. And I'm just going to take my 1-inch brush, and I'm going to dip it in my water and get it a little wet, a little moisture on there. Dab it off on my paper towel, and I'm just going to make a light gray color. So I'm going to pull maybe half my white over here, just so I don't mix too much in there. And then I just used a little corner on my paintbrush of the black, and I'm just going to mix it in here real loosely, because I don't want it to be super solid. I want it to be kind of messy. It's just the background. And I'm just gonna start right up here. And throughout this painting, I'm gonna grab my canvas, I'm gonna flip it one way or the other. It's just easier. You guys wanna get familiar with your canvas. If you need to put it in your lap, do it. I'll try not to do that, so it's still on camera, but. So we're just gonna make a nice fade. So we're starting with the light toned gray. I'm gonna just keep mixing in a little bit more dark as I go. And you guys don't really need to blend. You can leave it messy. Like I said, I have a sunset to covers, and I can still sort of see, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, there's some pink tones in there. And I'm just gonna keep adding my dark as I go down, getting a nice fade. Gonna have to add some more white here. Put a bit more dark. You just want to gradually get darker as you go down. And you don't need to be black at the bottom. You just need to have a dark gray. You want to save your black for your sunflower. And you guys might need to do 2 coats. I don't, since I pre-coated this before we started the video. But I would definitely pause and come back after your 2 coats. You want to make sure you've got plenty of paint on your canvas. If there's any white poking through, you want to make sure that's covered. Canvas tends to yellow over time. Sorry about that. I'm uploading another video and it decided to start playing. Awkward. I'm going to add just a touch more black here, just to get that dark gunmetal color. Alright, and I'm not really blending. I'm perfectly fine with it being streaky. There's going to be a lot of other layers to this, so I'm going to put my paintbrush, rinse out my paintbrush in my water, and I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back. Make sure you put 2 coats on. Like I said, you want to make sure there's plenty of paint on your canvas. Alright, and then we'll be back and we'll start grunging up the background. Alright guys, I've got a nice dry canvas now. I am ready to start grunging up my background. So first off, I am going to take my black, I'm going to add a little bit more black to my plate, and I'm going to kind of add it in a line. This is going to help me load it onto my palette knife. My palette knife, I am very particular about using the same one. If you get a 5-pack, there's several different shapes. You guys can play with them. I'm going to use this long pie cutter shaped one. Mine is very dirty. It's well used. I should probably clean it at some time, but maybe it adds more character and texture. This next part is actually kind of hard to explain. Once you kind of play around with it, you're going to get it. It's just getting the motions of it and me explaining it, which is going to be a little difficult, but I'll try. So I've got my line of paint here, and I'm only going to dip the palette knife in one side, and I'm going to kind of apply it to, and I'm going to tip it just slightly so that I get a nice load of black paint on 1/2 to 3/4 of the back side, and I've got a nice load of paint on this first edge here. And what we're going to do is we are just going to go around the edges, and we're just going to start to create a type of frame around the edge. I'm just gonna start. So I'm gonna start up here in the corner, and I'm gonna drag some paint across just the edge here. Really just gonna get it on here real good. And you can see, like, as I've turned it, it's kind of plopped down extra paint, and that is just fine. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it sideways, and I'm going to just kind of drag it out from the edge. and it's gonna make this awful scraping noise, but that's okay. Right now we're just kind of playing with it. Some of it's gonna be a little bit heavier than others. Maybe not scrape it as far. I'm gonna just kind of move this edge down a little bit. Just gonna scrape this in. And this is just adding texture. I'm sure you could use a piece of cardboard and get the same effect. But I really want to create the border around the painting to begin with. Tap it on, and I'm just going to drag it across there. And when I lay my palette knife flat, it kind of like moves. It's hard to explain. It kind of just scrapes it. And once you don't have a lot on your palette knife, you've kind of worn it off, you can just kind of take it and just kind of dirty up the center. And this drops like little tiny balls of paint. But you want to make sure that after you've unloaded around the frame area, so that you don't get big blobs like right down the center. But it's okay if you do. I mean, it's all abstract. So I'm just gonna keep scraping. You see I have my finger here for, I'm adding a little bit of pressure to get a little bit flatter on the canvas. I'm going to turn it because I need to be very intimate with my canvas in order to make it do what I want. And once I get it on there, I just kind of drag whatever paint is left on the canvas, and I just kind of drag it out. And in the center, I'm literally just scraping little bits of paint of what's left on my palette knife. And it's creating this speckly, worn, grungy type feeling to it. Loading some more paint. It's gonna take a lot. It's kind of hard to move if you don't have a lot of paint on your knife. So I've placed it on here. I've got a good group of paint going on. And then I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna turn it sideways and I'm just kind of scrape it out to the center. I'm just scraping it out. And now I know that I don't have very much paint on here, so I'm going to turn it flat and I'm just going to work the little bits of paint I have left across the back of the canvas. Once you guys get this down, this is a really fun technique just to do a background with. And I'm going to keep all of my scraping to a horizontal. A little bit more. Scrape across. Really just dirty it up. Alright, and then I have another fun technique that I do. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife here. It's nice and clean. Alright, so I'm going to drag it through this black here. So I've got all my paint and I kind of tapped it off, but I've got quite a bit of paint right along the edge of my palette knife. Now, it's real fun to come in, and if you hold at a steady pressure and just pull it down, you create these nice little lines. Okay, So I've got a line here. Now I come back up on the line and I put pressure on it and I drag one way. Okay. That's cool. Kind of looks like the canvas is worn or it's been folded. Now I'm going to recreate this sideways. Just going to drag it. I should turn my canvas. If you're right-handed or left-handed, that matters. Drag it until I kind of don't have any more paint. And then I'm going to come in, hold steady pressure, and I'm going to drag what paint I just laid down in the line. I'm going to drag it upwards there and maybe a little bit downwards here. It's not like a super steady line. All right. Loading some more paint. And I try not to create a pattern, which is really hard because as humans we want to create a pattern. So wherever I start on one line, I'm going to come down just a little bit and maybe off center it and do another line here. And maybe I will take it the opposite way so that it isn't patterned. Just kind of do that. Pull. Whoops. Let me just throw my palette knife, and then maybe I'll pull this one down. Okay. Once you get the hang of it, it's going to be a lot easier. And this is okay. This is just our background. You guys can be as heavy or as dark or however you decide to do this. Okay. Actually, I'm kind of running out of paint over here, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to add another line of black. The lines just keep it easier to actually load the palette knife. That's all. Especially when you're doing these like scrapey line work pieces. Come down here. It's a good one. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it to the side and I'm going to scrape sideways. And we're just going to do this kind of all over the canvas. And I like to keep them either horizontal or vertical. For some reason my OCD does not like diagonal, but you are welcome to do any type of lines that you feel that you need. This one has quite a bit, so you know what? I'm going to take it up and I'm going to take it down a little bit. Come in here, pull a line here, and then pressure, scrape and pull it up. All of our paintings are going to look different. Some of you might have quite very dark lines in the background. Some of us are going to have very thin lines because we weren't quite sure and we played it safe. And that's okay too. Alright. Trying to figure out, okay. Trying not to make a pattern. Pull up, maybe down on this side. Some of these are going to be covered by my sunflower, so it doesn't really matter. But just kind of do it all over. And then we're gonna do the same thing with white, kind of over the top of this. One more in the center-ish. I went that way, I went that way. Maybe I'll do one up and one down. Just kind of get a little crazy. This is all up to you. None of our paintings are going to look the same, so. And if you feel like it needs a little bit more of the center, grungy, just be careful and don't load too much paint on that palette knife. But if you do, it's okay. Alright, I'm pretty satisfied with that start. I've got, most of my edges have been covered in black. And I've got a good group here where I've kind of covered the back gray monotone like fade in the background. It's looking pretty grungy, so I'm gonna let this layer dry and then we'll be back for the light white layer, which we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to do less. Alright, our black is all dry. So the next part is we're going to just add some light, whatever we just did with the black, we're going to do with a little bit of white. I'm doing a little bit more to this than I did with my original painting. So you see I did a nice little line of white paint instead of just a blob. I've got my well-used palette knife ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the exact same thing I did with the black, except for I'm going to stay away from the edges right for now. We will come back in and kind of frame around the edges towards the end. But I'm just dabbing my palette knife in the paint. I'm dabbing the excess off, so I've got just the paint on the one side, and about halfway down is where it kind of ended. And I'm just going to create some of the same type of lines just like I did here, but I'm just going to do less. This is just to add a little bit more to the background, being as we went from a small painting to a larger painting. We need to jazz up the background just a little bit. So, let's see. I'm going to make my first one here. And you guys, I'm just doing the exact same thing. It's just gonna add another layer of grunge to my painting. It's not gonna be real noticeable, but yet it is at the same time gonna be noticeable. It's kind of a weird. And when I do these, the background isn't what's important. I really like the backgrounds, but they're just a distraction. They're just grunged up. Got quite a bit on there. Take it down. They're just making it more busy, because we just are painting a sunflower, so it's not got a whole lot going for it in the first place. So this background is just gonna make it more fun. So I got my line, drag up or down, whichever way it wants to go. Maybe I'll put one here. And then maybe I will put one right in the center of this so it's kind of a plus sign. Just kind of scraping it out, making sure it's smoothed out. I'm going in a few different directions here. Like I said, this painting is really hard to, it's really hard to translate, not being in person, how to use your palette knife. But I think that you guys will get it with some experimentation and watching me do it and just scraping. You know what, just like the black, when I know there's not a whole lot of white paint, after I've kind of like scraped it and pulled it, I might come in, kind of test the waters here. There's a little bit of paint on there, but I might go ahead and pull it. Well, there's a little bit more than that. So I might go ahead and just pull it, and I might just add some of these white. Now that I know there's not any paint on there, I'm just gonna scrape what I can and maybe pull some of these white bits out. Start again, pull a line up or down, pull a line. You guys will get the hang of it. Whew, that was a lot. But you know what? I am going to cover that anyway. None of these are going to be the same. And sometimes there's a little, ooh, that got a little out of hand, but not at the same time. What's really out of hand, right guys? Adding plups. I always think of this as like when I'm framing in, when I'm using my crosses and my T's, like almost like a vogue type thing where I'm making my statement around my subject. I don't know. I'll come back in and do more after. This is, like I said, just the background. This really doesn't matter. It's just for fun. And abstract really has no rhyme or reason. I mean, there is rhyme or reason, but I'm just adding a little bit more white right to the center of this one. Just because it got a little out of control. I need to make it look a little more like I meant to do that. I'm gonna come in. This looks like it could be a line across here. Dab off, pull down. All right, that looks pretty good to me. So we're gonna let this dry, and then we're gonna come in with some bubble wrap, which that's a fun technique. That's a little bit easier than the palette knife. So yeah, we'll be back with some bubble wrap as soon as this white dries a little bit, and then we'll be able to lay on some like circle textures, which will make these blend a little bit easier. It won't look like little audio files all over the back side of my painting. Alright guys, we are back and we are ready to add a second texture. What I'm going to use today is bubble wrap. It's fairly easy to get this circle grungy effect. They do make stencils, which are also, well, they're about the same amount of easy. But this is what the stencil would look like. And then you would need a flat stencil brush, and you would just lay this down and kind of stipple your paint onto your stencil. These are nice because they're like plastic, so they're reusable, and you can get a couple sets with a few different designs in them. My favorite is definitely the circles. I don't know why, but it's also easy to achieve with bubble wrap. So I'm going to show you that. So I cut my bubble wrap. It's about 4 inches long and I don't know, 15 inches, no, 4 inches wide and 15 inches long. No, I did not chew this off the roll as it looks. My scissors are just extremely dull. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take black. You can do white or you can do a mixture of gray, or like to mix it up to make gray. And then I'm just gonna paint and then press, and it's gonna give me a cool texture. So I'm gonna add some more black to my plate here, and I think I'm gonna just use my 1/2 inch flat brush here, just for ease of applying my paint. And I'm just gonna paint it right on the bubble part of my bubble wrap, fairly heavy. You know, and you can always like start off black and then fade to a white. I think for simplistic, I'm just gonna keep it black for right now. If you're quick to wash this, you can reuse it over and over too. Alright, so I've got some black here. And I'm just going to take this, paint side down, nice and easy. And I'm just going to press it softly, not too hard. You don't want to get the middle bits, but I'm going to press it on here. And then I'm just going to pull up. And that just adds a little bit more grungy texture. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm not too worried about overlapping. It's just texture. And I'm going to press so I get the whole effect on this one side. Just press real lightly and pull up. And I've got a cool little texture design here. Let's see here. I think I'm going to add a little bit more down here. And I actually might add a little bit of white to it. It's all up to you guys. This is an organic piece of art, so it's ever evolving. You guys can do it however you want to do it. So I've got black here. I think I'm going to just add some white. And it's going to kind of mix and turn a gray into black. That's okay with me. You're going to have to work kind of fast with this before it dries. And then I'm going to add the end of it back to black. This is just a fun texture. You can use anything for texture. You could use cardboard or cookie cutters. I just really like all the textures in the background. There we go. And that's cool. I'm gonna leave this part open. I don't want too much texture. So now as it is, I'm gonna let this dry. I'm probably gonna go rinse this out because I'm really frugal and I like to reuse what I got, so we'll be back in just a minute here, and it should be all dry and we're ready for our sunflower, I think. Alright guys, we are ready to freehand in our sunflower. And don't worry, the freehand will be fine. Just remember, it's abstract. Nothing needs to be perfect. There's a whole lot going on here. And we're gonna jazz it up. So I'm gonna start by using my detail brush here. I'm going to get a little more black paint on my plate. And I'm gonna take it back to kindergarten and start with a circle. I just need to figure out where I'm gonna place this here. I do not want to go dead center. Oh, there's a hair. It's blue. It's mine. My cats like to come in here too. Anyway, so I'm gonna keep it not dead center. You don't ever want to put anything dead center. It's kind of a killjoy. I don't know. Can't exactly tell you why right now, but I know it's not good. So we are just going to see. We're just gonna start, and we're gonna make a fun circle. Okay, that wasn't too hard. And then I'm gonna come up here, I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna draw, hang on. I think this circle needs to be a little bit bigger. We do have a bigger painting going on, so see what I mean by abstract? There we go. So I'm gonna come in and just put some petals in, guys. They don't have to be perfect. That's the best thing about abstract, like, so you notice I do have a little bit of spacing in between them, which is okay, because I'm gonna add back petals. Let's pretend that's up there. We kind of went off a little bit. Oh, that's okay. Everything is okay. So. Yeah, it looks funky, but I'm gonna keep going. So I've got my front petals going on. Now I'm gonna add some petals to the background, or the back. No big deal. These are just fillers, so if you had a hard time making your flower or coming out with the right amount of flower or petals, adding back petals really helps your layout here. Okay, so just add a little bit there. Okay, we have our sunflower in, and we should do a petal. Before I did it with the palette knife, and that seemed to be extremely difficult and hard to do at the end of the painting. So I am just gonna add a fun little stem. I'm gonna go small, and then I'm gonna make it bigger, because this is my painting. I'm also going to maybe make a leaf over here, and maybe one right here, just a smaller one. Keep it off-centered. All right, I know it looks childish, guys, but this is gonna turn out. So I'm going to switch to my 1/2-inch brush, and I'm gonna fill that center in really well with my black paint. Perfect. Got a good circle there. All right, and then I'm going to add some of my yellow ochre to my plate here. So my original, it looks like I had mixed my yellow ochre with a little bit of white and black. We might go ahead and do that. We'll just try and keep it simple here. So I'm going to pull half of that over here, and I'm just going to add just a smidge, just a tiny bit of black into that. It might even been too much. No, we're good. So it just kind of dirties it up just a little bit. And then we're gonna paint all of our background, or the leaves in the back, this color. And you guys might need two coats on this. And some of the paint is still wet, so I'm picking up a little bit of paint, which is okay. It's actually working to my advantage. I'm just painting real loosely. It's fun. Can always come back in and detail these petals out with your black liner. A little bit more in there. Keeping it loose, having fun. Oh, I forgot one. Oops, I think I missed one. That's alright. It don't really matter. I'll put another one in. Alright, so this petal got a little ahead of itself. So I'm not gonna start over. I'm just gonna put a back one in here. Doesn't really matter. And it's at the edge of the painting too. You're not even gonna notice that. I'm gonna wipe off the excess. Rinse my brush out. Maybe pick up some of this other yellow, bring it over here, maybe just add a corner tip of white just to make it a little bit brighter and a little bit more opaque. And we're just gonna loosely just paint these in. Like I keep saying, guys, it's abstract. And that's really fun. You can come over your black circle line. I'm gonna have to add a little bit more yellow here. Yellow, a little bit of white. Painting in real loosely. We can go over with 2 coats, or you can leave it semi-transparent too. Just really soaking up the... We will add a little bit more black to the center, so don't worry about over painting into your center. Alright, I like that. So for the leaves, I'm actually going to keep those a gray toned here. So I'm going to rinse out my brush really well. And I'm going to pull some of my white. And I'm going to make just a really light or medium gray toned here. And I'm just going to paint this in real loosely. Along with part of the stem. I think that's looking pretty good so far. I actually like the fact that the background is showing up behind what I've got going on here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back and I'm just gonna touch up some of these black lines. Yeah, I've made a decision. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna touch up some of my black lines because I really like the fact that it's not really filled in, but it is. But you can still see the texture going on behind these colors, but you can still see what's going on. So I'm just gonna come in and I'm gonna touch up kind of where, just real loosely. It doesn't even have to be all the way. That's the great thing about this. Doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, you don't even have, you can paint inside your lines, you can leave a little bit there, you can leave a lot there. It's just messy. Oh yeah, I like that. Now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to touch up. And instead of making this a perfect circle, I'm just going to kind of rough up the edges a little bit where the black would meet the yellow. Just instead of painting a perfect circle, I'm just going to blot in my black. Around the edges there. And I'm just gonna fill this in just a little bit here. Just like this. And then just get a little yellow, just a tiny bit of yellow on your paintbrush. And just kind of dab it in there. You know, the wet black. Yeah, I like that. And the more you dab, the more it blends. So if you don't want it too blended, just leave it alone. And now I'm gonna come down to my stem and my leaf, and I'm just gonna very vaguely, maybe I'll put a little whoop-de-doo here, some casual just kind of defining my stem and my leaves just a little bit. I like that. Okay, what else does this need? Alright, I'm going to come back. I'm going to let this dry for just a second, and then I'm going to come back and we're just going to add one final touch, and that is totally optional. If you guys are satisfied right now, sign it, be done with it, and be happy. But I'm just going to add, what I like to do is these like circle stencils that make it look like maybe somebody put their cup on there and it left a ring. Just kind of makes it look a little bit older. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright guys, so we are almost dry. It's actually the middle that's taking the longest, but I wanna finish this, And I really like how this turned out. I actually like it better than the original. The original I did almost 2 years ago. So I really like how this turned out. What I'm going to be using is, the rest is totally optional. If you are satisfied, stop, do not continue. If you want a little extra, what I'm using is a plastic cup. It has a 3-inch diameter top, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to stick 3/4 of it. We don't want the whole thing. We just want a good 3/4. So it kind of leaves a ring, like if somebody left a dirty dish on your countertop or your wood end table. It's just kind of a cool effect. So it looks like I've got half a ring going on here. So I'm gonna test this out. I'm gonna test it out up here where it really doesn't matter. I might have to twist just a little bit to get the 3/4 thing, but I'm gonna come slightly over my petals because I want this to be layer number 2. Okay, I got a half moon. That's good. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more white to my plate here. And I'm probably not going to come back in. I don't know, maybe I will. To get that 3/4. 3/4 is the magical percentage there. So I'm just gonna stick it right back on there. I'm gonna test my luck. There we go. Perfect. And less is more with these guys, and this is definitely something you don't want to make a pattern with. So where could I do the next one? Maybe just a small one right here. Perfect. It's just so hard not to make a pattern. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and boop. Perfect. Done. Okay. The next thing I'm gonna do, it's that easy. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just put in a few black, what I call them Vogue lines. They're kind of like a focal point. You don't have to do this. So it's totally me. I'm gonna use my palette knife again. But I'm not going to drag. I'm just going to leave some lines that kind of say, look at me, I'm a sunflower, I'm the focal point. So I've got my paint, I've dipped it in my line of paint, it's just on the edge. I'm just going to be making these easy lines like this. And then I'm going to come on at the top. And this is something I do with some of my other abstract paintings. I've done some wildlife, a mountain lion, I think a grizzly bear. And they've been really colorful, but I've done these weird focal lines and they're very popular. Got one line, perfect. And then I'm just gonna do this line right here. And it just does this, like, I'm telling you, it's like Madonna Vogue, like, look at me, I am a sunflower, I am awesome. That's all you need. It's this, we're done. I'm done, I like this. I am gonna sign it. In black. And I like to sign it not in the traditional spots. I like to be a little bit different. So I'm gonna hide it in this leaf here. And that's just me, guys. You guys can sign it anywhere. I just really don't like my signature. I haven't perfected it. It's just blah. Alright, I am looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with for this tutorial. I want to see the results. Post them on our website, or actually post them on our Facebook group. Join our Facebook group first. You can find that right off of our Creative Canvas Facebook page. But the group is called Creative Canvas Artist Community. It's kind of long. For more tutorials, check out our website at creativecanvas406.com. We have lots of video tutorials on YouTube under Creative Canvas Sisters. And that's it, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for painting. Like I said, I can't wait to see your results. Let me know how you did. Let me know how the video is. Like, I am up for critiques. Thanks, guys. Bye.